Welcome to It's a New Day. My name is James Young. Today my guest is?
Roderick Green, Hillside Work Scholarship Connection Executive Director.
Okay.
Don Armstrong, Zone Director for Hillside Work Scholarship Connection.
Okay. First, are both of you from Rochester? We talked a little bit off camera, and I believe that you said you're from Rochester.
I am born and raised in Rochester,
Okay.
native, yes.
Where did you grow up at?
I grew up off of East Main Street on Wisconsin Street, and then later on in my life ended up moving out to one of the eastern suburbs.
Okay, very good.
And I'm originally from Cincinnati, Ohio, but I've been in Rochester since 1998, so I feel right at home.
Okay, very good. Well, getting back to you, so that was part of the Crescent area. And the reason why I'm mentioning that, because one of the things that they're saying, 1 out of every 3 black men that live in the Crescent area are either in prison, in drugs, or somehow involved with the criminal justice system. So you're one of the fortunate 2, and I always make that, try to make that statement to letting people see that we do have good people that come from this particular area, because as you know, the stereotype and the bad imaging that we receive, but we have someone that came from that area and has done very well. As a matter of fact, we'll start with you, Mr. Green, and we'll begin to tell us a little bit about the program and how it started and when it started.
Sure, Mr. Young. So we actually are in our 25th year of serving young people here in the Rochester area. We started in 1987 actually as Wegmans Work Scholarship Connection. We were started as a call to action from former Mayor Bill Johnson when he was the president and CEO of the Urban League to see what the community could do to stem the incidence of young people dropping out of high school. And at that time, for the last published graduation rate, the graduation rate for students in the city school district, so kids that started in the 9th grade and completed on time in 4 years, was only 30%. So Mr. Danny Wegman and his father, Robert Wegman, said, we think we've got something that might work. Wegmans at that time had several urban stores and had a profound commitment to helping urban youth help secure employment. But they were finding in some of those urban stores, the young people that were employed were turning over at almost 100% rate. So the vision was, how could you create a program that employed part-time work experience and scholarships for young people as incentives to stay in school. But just providing the jobs was not going to be enough. All the research at that time, and it bears out today, showed that all of these young people needed some caring adult in their life to help them navigate through the challenges they might have at home, coming to school, and then making sure they were successful on the job site. So we stayed with Wegmans until about 1996, and at that time our board of directors really felt for our program to continue to grow and develop, it had to be community owned, and therefore it had to come out from under Wegmans Food Market. And so it was put out to RFP, and the Hillside family of agencies, at that time Hillside Children's Center, bid and actually took over the operation of the program. So we went in 1987 from having just 30 young people serving to our current school year, we're serving over 2,500 young people in the Rochester City School District. We expanded into Syracuse, New York in 1994, and that program is serving just under 1,000 young people. In 2008, we took our first step out of New York State and are actually serving young people in the Prince George's County, Maryland school district right next to Washington, D.C. Got about 200 young people there. And back in 2011, last year, we actually expanded to Buffalo, New York, where we're serving about 120 kids. So we are now in 3 out of the 5 largest school districts in the state of New York, and hopefully poised over the next several years to do more expanding in New York State, and hopefully, if funding is secured, expand this to localities outside of New York State.
Where does the actual funding come from? Is it just coming from personal businesses? Are there any other groups that put money into this particular part?
It's a varied funding stream.
Okay.
So we get money from the city school district. There is money that comes in through the county of Monroe. We have other private philanthropy and businesses that support us. So that's in-kind support. But one of the other major components is that we have businesses, Wegmans, the University of Rochester, Unity Health System, and about 22 other businesses that actually earmark jobs for these young people so that when they meet eligibility standards, so coming to school, doing at least C or better work in their core subjects, having the right attitude and maturity, the program will take them through a comprehensive job readiness training program, and if they're successful, they can get hired. So they're immediate contributors not only to their family, but obviously to the community. One of my most famous sayings I hear is the best social program in the world sometimes is a job. So you talked about those young people that are in the Crescent. We actually have 21 of our young men. So this summer, obviously, what's been in the news is the increased violence and the murders. So 21 of our graduates this year actually reside in the Crescent. And they're confirmed graduates from the city school district. 18 of those young people have secured employment and have been working on average 17 months. So we do a little calculation, so those young people working at least 15 hours per week at minimum wage, they have generated in the first 8 months of our academic and fiscal year $80,000 to that community. Those young people retain their jobs through the end of the year. That's generating $125,000 of just economic impact. So folks also have to be aware that not only do we keep kids in school and help them graduate, but provide another benefit to the community in terms of the emerging workforce and tax dollars that can be drawn down on behalf of that.
Oh, that's very, very impressive, because this is the first time I've heard an economic component put to education. And whereas the numbers that you're just giving, I think that is very, very impressive. Is there something that you would like to add on to that?
Indeed. In addition to the employment opportunities, our young people oftentimes are in need of guidance. Mr. Green just spoke of the caring adult. We refer to them as youth advocates. They're in the schools throughout the day, before school, during school, and after school, providing an array of services for our young people. There are programs like our New Generation of Young Men, which our young men, as we spoke a little earlier, are facing many, many challenges. We wrap our arms around them, bring them into our main office to engage them in conversations about any topic of interest. And there are opportunities for them to get out of the neighborhood. We have what we call out of your hood excursions. We've been to Washington, D.C., we've been to Cleveland. When LeBron James was a part of the Cavaliers, our young men were able to witness his great performance there. And so what we are also proud about is our youth development component of this program, in which we are able to pour into young people the things that will help them can focus in spite of the challenges that they may be confronted with.
Well, I know both of you are more than aware of the unbelievable failure rate
Yes.
in the city school district. Is this program really giving, we talked a little bit about off camera about this, trying to be an incentive to getting more young people to see that there is some real meaningful life out there, but they're going to have to apply themselves. Is this something that you would definitely say is having an impact on the ones that are graduating?
I would say yes. We can measure that by our own graduation rate in comparison to the district. And so a part of our challenge is to make sure that we are able to prove our value by, as demonstrated by a higher graduation rate. How we go about doing that, we have college immersion programs. Students as early as the 9th grade are able to be inspired by young people who have come through the program or those who are in college right now and can tell their story, what difference the program made for them, and inspire. We're also good with having siblings of the program speak to their younger siblings about the impact in their lives, and parents are also speak very highly about what we have done in the lives of the young people. The academic component is so critical. Our goal is graduation, then college, and then of course careers. And so to make that happen, we partner with tutoring programs that are able to provide that expertise for after school for those who are in need of Regents prep, homework support, and what have you. And so our main push is really to focus on academics and explaining that if whatever you want to do in your life, whatever your dreams are, the academics is the pathway to your success.
I've heard part of the discussion for the failure is because many of these students are in poverty. But now, would you agree or disagree with that? Do you think that that is one of the major causes? Because I'm looking at that if we have a program like this, that should a student not be able to have the financial wherewithal of going to school or looking in the job market or using that as a means of thinking that they can't get in the job market, but if they knew or know that this program is existing, if they apply themselves, it does not really matter where they come from as far as economically.
Absolutely. All the services that we provide for our young people are at no cost. Now, much is made from the research about poverty and its impact on graduation rates. We wouldn't be lying to you in saying that it's not a barrier. However, it is not an insurmountable barrier. And our youth advocates, as Mr. Armstrong said, are committed to meeting young people where they're at and moving them from someplace, perhaps if they're negative, to something positive. And what we say is we really only need one generation of young people to make it. And when they make it, they're going to create the enduring change for their families and their community that's going to last them 3, 4, 5 generations. So those are the kind of things that we work on. We do partner with the families. So I think a big myth in the urban community is that parents and guardians don't care about their children. That is categorically false. Our parents or guardians, they want to help, they want to partner, but they also just need additional support services for them to advocate and empower their young people. And that's what we do. So we have an individual graduation plan that outlines short-term and long-term goals for our young people around academics, life and social skills, employment, and post-secondary. And we actually work with the homes and the families to set up that plan and work in partnership to make sure that our young people stay on track.
Is not to say or to get into a one-upmanship pertaining to the school board and what you're doing with this agency, but you mentioned, as well, I've had guests from the agency come on and they basically said the same thing, that when we compare graduation rates, your graduation rates are much higher than this district. What is the reason for, I'm looking at perhaps maybe what you just said, working with the parents, providing that. Is that what you think, Mr. Armstrong, is maybe increasing this graduation rate from the district?
Our success is contingent upon the support that we get from the district. So to the point where there's no competition here. Okay. We need the district to provide opportunities within school in the form of space, and opportunities to do the kinds of things like after-school enrichments. And so we certainly are in partnership. Our challenge is to get as many young people in the program as possible, though, so they can receive those services that lend to success, types of services like tutoring support. Again, a caring adult. When our young people are coming to school with so much on their mind based on what's gone in the home the night before, or conflicts that they're unable to resolve for lack of skills in that regard, when you have that caring adult to kind of intercede at the point of the interaction between two adults, you're able to redirect that energy and stop that student from getting suspended, for example. And if the student is not suspended, they're in school, their attendance is there, and we know what the link is between good attendance and good grades. So again, we're grateful for what the district does in receiving us and giving us the opportunity to do these great things. And so, yes.
How do you get the students into your program? I mean, is this a recruitment, or is the school district promoting this? How do the students get this information? Mr. Green?
Sure, and it's a variety of those ways that you mentioned. So we are a voluntary program, so it's not like you're mandated to be in Hillside Work Scholarship Connection. Young people are identified by 3 key ways. So In most of our high schools in the Rochester City School District, we partner very closely with the family support or student support centers that are in the district. And they can provide referrals when young people cross that threshold, and we'll start recruiting. Secondly, the other school-based personnel that we're in partnership in the schools, so principals, teachers, the guidance counselors, they also provide entrees for referrals. And then the other method we say, and it's not scientific, is just young people self-selecting and having friends or other siblings, as Mr. Armstrong say, that identify themselves as just needing some additional support, and they will actually seek out the advocates. Once that happens, we start a qualification process. So as part of HIPAA and authorizations, all of the parents and guardians have to sign off and provide release for us to go into the students' cumulative files to start the process of recruitment and enrollment. We have 6 major research-based factors that we look at when considering young people for admission into the program. As we talked about, certainly poverty is one flag, so based on family size and income and or eligibility for free and reduced lunch. We look at attendance, so some of our young people are coming to school certainly, but not at the district threshold of 90% or better that will keep them in good standing. We look at core subjects, so there's no grade point average, but many of our young people could be failing 2 or more core subjects as required for graduation, so the traditional math, English, social studies, science. Some of our young people unfortunately might be overage and under credit, so that 16-year-old that might have had to repeat an earlier grade and might only be in the 9th grade. Sometimes our young people do not make the appropriate decisions, and it requires a disciplinary referral and or a suspension. So we look at that. And then many of our young people are scoring at a level 1 or 2 on the state standardized tests for math and English language arts. So a young person is, we look at those factors at the time of enrollment. A young person has to have at least 2 of them, but in many cases they might have even more than that. But that's where our model is just tailored to really meet young people where they're at, designing a comprehensive graduation plan. There is buy-in from all parties, and everybody is working for that common goal. As Mr. Armstrong said, we keep it very simple: graduation period, college period, career period. And those are the acceptable pathways that we expect for our young people. And success breeds success. So we might be getting a young person in 8th or 9th grade who isn't looking at that. By the time they're finished with us, they are college and or career ready.
Mm-hmm. How does that actually happen? How do you, because once again, we hear about the students non-engaged. We are constantly hearing about how students are just wherever it is that they are. But how do you get someone to focus on graduating from high school, focus on now the college? How does that process happen?
Mr. Green mentioned that success breeds success. Student in the 8th grade, 9th grade, when you talk about college, many of them, hey, that's down the road. We got some time. High school is a time to have a lot of fun, and so a part of it is meeting the student where they are. Some of the carrots that are out there is, hey, what do you think about working, having your own paycheck, $50, $60 a week to buy your own shoes? Students tend to perk up when they hear the prospects of a job. So you don't necessarily go to a conversation about graduation, college, and career. Maybe the youth advocate would start with a job opportunity. The ongoing dialogue and the reason why we're in the schools daily is that we understand that this is a progressive process. It's a process. And so you start off by exposing young people with other young people around their age, maybe a couple years older, that have made some progress. It's not unlike us to take students into a Wegmans store and for the students to see others around their age that are working and doing some great things. We talked earlier about the college immersion program, in which young people, again, are tutored by others who are just freshmen in college, sophomores in college, aspiring to be doctors, lawyers, wherever the case may be. And so using the power of youth development, positive youth development principles, we're able to lead them down the path until the point when they get around the 10th, 11th grade, where the light starts to turn on, and they begin to understand what we've been trying to do for the previous couple of years. And at that point, they take off, and they're able to begin to make progress on their own. Part of what we want to do, we're referred to ourselves as youth advocates, but we understand that we're empowering young people to advocate for themselves. And so we spend a lot of time just pouring into them the types of life skills. They may not even realize at the time why we're doing what we're doing. To them, the excursions may be about the fun that is connected to it, but we're able to check in with them, confirm with our review of their grades that they are making progress. Whether or not they understand how this connects to larger goals is a matter of development, but it's just the ongoing conversation that allows us to reinforce what we're trying to do.
Mr. Green, because you are actually from here, now the area that you grew up, I would assume that during your period of time, perhaps looked different than it does now. But still, this isn't Henrietta, okay? This is still no Canterbury Road by no stretch of the imagination. And I want to personalize this a little bit. Growing up in the environment that you grew up, what gave you the incentive? What motivated you? Because I think that now the position that you have, I think that this makes you a prime mentor, someone to follow in the footsteps of, coming from this particular environment, this particular part of the city. What impressed you? What motivated you? What was your inspiration?
Well, Mr. Young, I have to say that I was blessed to have the school of mom and dad with me. Okay. So, I was born in the city. I did live there for a period of time, but my parents were both in education. Okay. And one of the things that they always stressed is when you get that piece of paper, no one can take it from you. So, again, further on as I got into young adulthood, we didn't end up moving to the suburbs, really to be able to give myself and my brothers just a better opportunity. So I have to thank God, and I have to thank my parents for investing in education. So the other thing I had is I had mentors. So I think about folks like my neighbors yelling at me to get off the grass. We ended up having to go to church every Sunday, so the deacons and the Sunday school teachers, I had people that saw something in me that I probably hadn't yet seen in myself. And I'll tell you, as most teenagers, I made some mistakes, but they weren't fatal mistakes. And a lot of the mistakes that our young people make, sometimes in the choices, can end up having some very negative consequences. So again, I was fortunate to have not only my parents, but a support circle of folks that, again, moved me to where I needed to be. I was able to go on and get my bachelor's degree, my master's, and just really put something back in the community that I love. And I tell folks that I continue to get older, and pretty soon I'm going to vacate out of whatever role that I'm in, and we're going to need that next generation of young leaders here in the community. And I believe there is opportunities in the Rochester community. It's a great place to be. It's a great place to raise a family. Sure, we have our challenges like a lot of communities, but I really think that young men and women of color, if they choose to stay in Rochester and they stay the course and they get the kind of support our program does, they can make a great future and have the quality of life that they should come to expect here in our community.
Mr. Armstrong, as from listening to the answer that Mr. Green gave us, it seems like there was a stronger sense of community. It just wasn't the immediate family, but the neighbors, the extended family, the extended community. And it seems like this is the same principle. These are the same ingredients that it seems like this agency is using throughout several of its programs. Would you speak about that?
It's not rocket science. It's about strong communities. It's about if you do not have that father in the home, mother in the home, whatever the circumstances are, the old saying, it takes a village to raise a child. It's applicable. We embrace that concept. Our caring adults, our youth advocates become mother to those who need mothers. They become the father to those who need, to the extent that we can. Whatever we are not able to provide, we reach out to the community. We network with other agencies. And so as a result of that, we're able to bring into the lives of young people many of the resources that Mr. Green spoke of. And so that you may not have the biological connections that I was also fortunate to have mother and father at home, but even if that's the case, that's not an excuse. Excellence can be obtained, and so that's what we're really all about. It's a youth advocate doesn't have to have all the answers. They just need to know where to go and how to help young people learn how to do much of the same for themselves.
Do students actually come to you, or do you actually have any one-on-one, or do you have interactions? I'll start with you first.
I actually was a youth advocate for most of my career. I've been with the organization for 10 years now, and most of that time I was in the role of a youth advocate, so quite familiar with how it works. Young person is a little bit standoffish because they don't understand the difference that I bring in the context of the schools. Oftentimes students look at adults as authoritarians. Are you really interested in my dreams, my hopes, or are you just here for the academics? Part of what we try to do first is to break down the barriers. I'm here for you. It's about you. It's about your dreams and so forth. That takes a little time, up to about 6 months or so. It's just breaking the ice and being there for them. But yes, indeed, as that relationship is built, it's all really for us about the relationship. We're able to, again, advance whatever their goals are. And again, I can't emphasize it enough how much it's not about my goals. It's not even about the program goals. It's important for us for the student to embrace the fact that what we're talking about is their goals. And the path to whatever those goals are, it leads through education and so forth. And so indeed, that's just some of the methods that we embrace. And we find it to be very, very successful. As a youth advocate, young people, to answer your question, would oftentimes come in between classes just to step in, just to say hi. And I realize that they're not just saying hi, they just need to know that I'm there, that I'm present in case there's a need. If there's a bully in the school that they're concerned about, instead of taking care of business themselves by defending themselves, looking for me to just help them navigate the system so they can find the kind of protection that they need. And we're very proud of that ability to help our young people stay out of trouble.
I believe it was Mahatma Gandhi said that you have to become the change that you want to see in the world. And it seems like this is exactly what is happening here. I'm listening to the both of you, and I'm looking at how you succeeded in your personal lives. And because you have succeeded in your personal life, you're now helping other individuals and young students succeed in their lives. Would you comment further on that?
Sure. I'm also fortunate that I've got 4 kids of my own. I'm married. And I don't have a different expectation for my 4 kids than I have for the 2,500 kids that are in our program in Rochester and all the other kids in the other regions that we serve. I all want them to graduate from high school. I want them to go on to college, if not college, have full-time employment so they can become contributors to their society. I've got 2 sons, so what I'd like them to do is grow up and hopefully get married and live an example of how you raise a family and provide the economic stability you need. I've got 2 daughters at home. I have the same expectations for them, that they will finish high school, go on to college, maintain their independence, and hopefully meet nice guys like myself that will complement what they're doing. And I have that same expectation for our young ladies and our young men in our program because, as Mr. Armstrong said, it really comes back to building that community. And by having stable families that are able to earn money to be able to sustain themselves, that's what's really going to break this cycle that we have in here of poverty and lack of education. You just, again, really need that one person to break through and create that kind of enduring change for generations to come.
Do either of you actually go into the schools and talk to students, share some of this same information that you're sharing with our viewing audience today?
Absolutely. We run enrichments in the schools after school several days of the week of the. That's an opportunity for leadership within our organization, outside the organization to come in, and indeed we both go in and meet with the kids, tell them our story, and just share what the fact that whatever your ethnicity is, it's not a limitation. It does not prevent, and so one from succeeding. So a part of, yes, we are in the class, but we also ask of our youth advocates just to reach out, find that doctor of color, find that lawyer, attorney of color. When our former mayor Bill Johnson has been very, very supportive of the program through attending, speaking with our young men, our young, all of our students, if you will. And so it's just a great thing just to go in and to meet with students on a one-on-one basis. One of my great passions around this whole thing and what fires me up every day is to see a young person that when they got into the program, as you spoke earlier, had no hope, really was just there. School was just a place for social gathering. To then see them find a job, be successful in a job, and to see the light come on. And they begin to think that I can do this, I can go to college. And now to have them advance into some profession, and there's no greater joy than we have than to have one of those graduates. We have doctors, we have individuals that have done great things within the Wegmans organization. They're in management and leadership. To come back and say, hey, these adults know what they're talking about. They may be a couple of generations removed from your age, but stick with them, understand what they're trying to do, cooperate, and you'll find the kind of success that you're looking for.
Do you want to add something to that?
Sure. Now, I don't get out to the schools as much as I would like, but I have had the pleasure in my 11 years here to lead startups in most of the community. So I've had a chance to go to a lot of high schools across the country. And it really comes down to the little things and really meeting young people. So our most recent expansion has been into the Buffalo Public Schools. And since we're still small, I get the opportunity to review all of the report cards and try to make a determination about young people being referred on to our job readiness training program. So I happened to see a report card of a young lady named Maria, and saw the report card, and I called the team manager and I said, tell me a little bit about Maria. You know, she's got really good grades. Do you think she'd want to work? And they said, well, she doesn't want to go through youth employment training, you know, but she's really a good kid. I said, listen, next time I'm out there, you know, just kind of bring her to me. So I happened to meet the young lady, and I said, Maria, I started off with, you have really good grades. Do you think you want to work? She said, oh, mister, I don't know if I want to go through that. I said, listen, do you want to make some money? She said, yeah. I said, I'll make you a promise. I said, what is your favorite restaurant? She said, Red Lobster. I said, okay. I said, you probably could get an ultimate feast there, right? She says, yeah, mister, that's my favorite. I said, I will make you a promise that if you complete youth employment training successfully, I will get you a gift card to Red Lobster. And she says, okay, mister. So next YETA session comes up. She enrolls in the program. I'm calling the manager to kind of keep tabs. They say she's doing really, really well. She finishes the program, and she actually got extended an offer to work at Wegmans. And so one of the things that I always know with kids, if you promise them anything, you got to deliver on it. Mm-hmm. So I went to try to get a gift card, and we just have some policies in our organization around gift cards. And so I couldn't do that, but I said, you know what, somehow I have to make this right with this young lady. So I go to the office, and she comes in with her advocate, and she's having a terrible day. And I go to her, I said, Maria, do you remember me? She says, I do, mister. I said, so you know what I do here? Yeah. She said, yes. I said, what did we say would happen if you completed youth employment training? She said, Red Lobster. I says, well, I can't give you the Red Lobster gift card. But I said, what I can do is I have $25 here in my pocket. And I know you're having a bad day. She said, yeah. I said, that $25 is going to fall out of my pocket. And your youth advocate is perhaps going to pick it up. And that $25 will find its way to you for your ultimate feast. I said, the only thing that you have to do is, now that you're employed at Wegmans, just make sure that you're living the values. I told her, you know, it goes without saying, the cameras are everywhere, and you've worked so hard to get to this point. Don't do anything foolish that will impact your ability to be able to earn. And she says, mister, I can do that. And now, from what I know, she's been very successful in her 6 months. She's actually been promoted to a role called an ambassador. So she's actually a greeter and, is able to kind of move off of just the front end and expand herself. And again, it's just something simple by seeing a good transcript and just engaging that young people with something small. And that's what our young people need. It's really instilling hope in these young people.
I'm listening to these inspiring stories. I'm listening to the both of you. I'm inspired. I wish I could go back to school again. But the sad part about this is that we hear so much about the negative stories that are here. Mm-hmm. We've heard about this summer. This has been the summer of violence. Mm-hmm. And I guess, too, to add on to this, for so many of the violent crimes, there have been so many people that haven't been arrested for any of these things. Mm-hmm. And it just makes this place so dismal when we're constantly hearing this. And unfortunate as well, everyone gets painted with the same stroke.
Sure.
And it is such a beautiful thing to hear your enthusiasm, working with young people, inspiring them, getting them to see the value of life. Because when I look at young people, I've even had some young people on the show, and I thought I had some of the brighter students on this show. Mm-hmm. And when they tell me that they feel hopeless, that there is such despair out there, but now to hear that there is a beacon of light through the things that you're talking about, trying to get young people to see that this stuff makes sense. And now the association between education, career opportunities, making this more valuable to them. Because I think one of the problems that I think that is happening across the board everywhere with education is that there's not enough emphasis of how this impacts the student in their daily lives and real life, everyday situation. And now what you're saying, here's a situation where you interacted with a young person that now she has a greater understanding of the relationship with education, career, as well as economic independence. When we were in slavery, education was looked at as a means of becoming free. After slavery, we've always, when I say we as black people have always looked at education as a means for us to moving from one status to another. But it seems like now we've gone backwards, where young people now see no value in education. They are so disengaged. But when I'm hearing this message, how do we get this message out here? How do we get these young people to see that this has value, that this is their lives that we're talking about? And now I know there are just so many barriers and so many challenges. We have the internet, which is, I mean, how do you compete with the internet? We have these smartphones. I mean, these young people can do things with these phones that are just amazing. And not only do they have the phones, somehow advertisers are bombarding these young minds with all these things that they must have. We have satellite radio with 1,000 channels. And so we have all of these things bombarding young people, getting their minds to thinking, this is how you do it, or this is what you need. But how do we bring them back into being focused? I mean, maybe like for myself, we lived in an easier time. We only had 3 channels. There was just AM and FM radio. So it was much simpler. So maybe that accounts for that. But how do you deal with that? Now, how do you get young people to understand that there's more value than just that?
There are those who think that that's too complicated, what you've just described. But you started with the premise that you've met young people that are very, very smart. And we would agree with that. We find our young people are brilliant, have all the abilities, but there's a great disparity in terms of their hope. And as a result of that, they do not perform up to their capability. So we have to start as something that we preach in Hillside. We believe in our families. We believe, Hillside believes in me. And we start right there, that we want a young person to understand that in spite of what you think you can and cannot do, I believe you can do anything. And we just build on that, build on that. So we've had lives that have been lost. Our students have colleagues that have been shot in the streets that are dead. And typically when you come to school the next day, the educational process just go on as if, try to do their very best to help with the grieving process. But some of our young people need more time to deal with these kinds of things. And they may move into a period of total silence and no one understands why the grades are dipping. We have the ability to intervene at that point and begin to have discussions. Again, our youth advocates are not necessarily experts in all the possible subjects within the community in terms of the negative message that come forth through the various forms of media. But what we are able to do is to bring students in and act as a facilitator to allow them to talk about what they're confronted, what they're dealing with, the socio-emotional challenges that they're confronted with. In that group setting, we find a lot of healing going on. We find a lot of education going on. And when our young people are building up their hope and that hope meets that intelligence has always been there, they begin to thrive. And they're able to share that with those who are not a part of the program and encourage them to join the program. Our recruitment process is not that difficult. It's not as if we have to go and sell. Our students become our greatest advocates. They promote the program quite well because of what it's done for them. And so we would say that yes, the circumstances are complicated, but the answers, the solution really gets down to demonstrating that you're a caring adult. Our kids, first and foremost, and I hate to refer to them as kids, our young people, first and foremost need to know that you're real and that you care. And they can discern that pretty quickly. But once that connection is there, the sky's the limit.
Okay. Would you like to add on to that?
I'll just say something that was told to me when I was young. We can show you better than we can tell you, okay? And kids will not remember a lot of what you've said, but what you've done.
Right.
Exactly.
And so our youth advocates are role models for that. So you talk about what more we can do is continue to invest, certainly in programs like ours that have outcomes, and we can get more young people access to the services. But the other thing is, and as Mr. Armstrong said, we have over 1,000 graduates throughout our 25 years. And young people, I'm talking 22 to 24, 25, that have significant leadership positions, have finished their educational process. And oftentimes that message coming from that recent college graduate resonates more because they're closer to that. For somebody to say 3 to 4 years ago, I was that student. Now again, as we get further away from the young people, young people don't listen as much. Now I used to like to say, you're going to be older a lot longer than you're going to be younger. But for our young people, seeing folks that have come right out of their community and are young and are taking care of business the right way, that message resonates. So we hear so much about the negative things. We need to really be highlighting more of the positive things for the young folks in our community that are making it and are achieving and will continue to achieve.
I also am involved in a youth program and working with the youth. And when I first started out, I wanted to save everyone. I wanted 100%. I just could not deal with the idea that losing someone, I had to bring them on. But as we progress further and further into this environment and doing these things, now I'm glad to get one student. And just having one student, one young person succeed within my program has now become so much more meaningful to me.
Yes.
Is this something that you experience as well?
Yes, we certainly do. What I'm most proud of is we do reach out for those students perhaps who do not respond to the program, to the outcomes, or to the direction that we're trying to help them obtain. There are times when a young person just say, this is not for me at this particular time. I have too much going on. I don't want to go to school. And so there are times when we have to make a decision that this is not the right time for you to be in a program. what we're most proud of is that if something clicks, and we'll continue to engage them whether they in or outside the program, but if something clicks and they're saying, listen, I'm ready for this program, to get back in is so simple. We have a recoup process. Because they qualified at one time, they're eligible to come back in. And so we're oftentimes the path to success does go down a few layers before you start to progress. And so it is important to understand that there are some short-term accomplishments that one can obtain, and then there's a long-term goal. And so in the course of that 9, 10, 11th grade, maybe there's some setbacks in those upper levels. We're still there to help them progress. Even beyond that, if it takes a little longer, if you don't graduate on time, we're still there to provide that support until you finish cross the line. So it breaks your heart, as you mentioned, when a young person doesn't catch hold to the message right away. But we're still there, and that's the beauty of being in the schools. They're able to find us anytime.
Okay, would you like to add on to that?
You know, I think he hit it.
Okay, very good. As well, I know that seeing a student succeed, there's got to be no greater reward. But now when you see a student, just as you're saying, that doesn't want to participate in the program, how do you deal with that? Because as you're saying, I mean, we are a reflection. I mean, these students are watching us, okay? And now, when no one is watching, and you're dealing with a student now who doesn't want to participate in the program, what does that do to you? Because now how you're dealing with that is going to impact the next student that comes in behind that person. So how do you deal with those disappointments? I'll start with you, Mr.
Sure.
Brown.
So we have a philosophy is that we will exhaust all potential resources. Okay. So we won't necessarily say that efforts always have to equal results, because young people, you have to take them where they're at, and the advocate will go to the wall. I mean, we've got young people, for example, that we're engaged and then we don't see them. Now, our policy can say if there's no contact after a period of time, they would be terminated from the program. So there's nothing greater than having a young person, for whatever reason, that isn't connected, and you find them. And you just want to send that warning letter, and they give you that toothy grin, oh, mister, I'm going to try to do better. And you're like, come on in here and let's talk. So we exhaust all of our resources, as Mr. Armstrong says. Sometimes kids self-select out of the program, but we always have that open door of being able to recruit them. And even young people that might leave and not end up rejoining, we've made an impact on those young people. We have. And you don't ever know the carryover effect that you might have with young people who maybe don't stay with the program. And I know over the years we have had young people come back and say, I didn't realize, Miss or Mister, what you were trying to tell me. And now something has happened, and I get it, and I understand it. And I appreciate you for caring enough to at least tell me about that. So we never give up hope at any instance, and we know the students see that. They see that the advocate, and kids are very good at conning you, but they at some level know that, no matter what I do, Mr. Armstrong, he's always going to have my back, He's always going to be there for me. And even though I might not do what I'm supposed to do 50 times, I know that one time Mr. Armstrong is going to acknowledge that and praise that, and not hold it against me for the other 50 things that I maybe didn't accomplish. The kids know that.
Would you like to?
I just want to add, from the perspective of a youth advocate, we're in a not-for-profit organization. And for those who have salaries from not-for-profit, they can identify what I'm about to say. It's not, the compensation is not as robust as we would like it to be. So the question is often asked, then why do you do what you do, and for as long as you have done it? And I begin to turn that question around oftentimes, and I think about compensation in another dimension. And you spoke of earlier, when you see a successful young person, the tears that come to your eyes, the heart that swells up, because you remember where they were when they started. And remember, we're recruiting students. It's not just the average district student that is in a program. It's the students that are confronted with certain factors that research says that they may not make it. And so when they cross the stage or when they just obtain a job, I walk into Wegmans all the time. I was advocate approached me today and said she couldn't. The advocate couldn't pronounce the name. There was a LaShawn, and I just knew what he was trying to say. Miss LaShandra Joseph. I hope it's okay to say her name on camera. But she's a student that remembered me from several years ago, in which she came into the program with some concerns and issues around whether or not she was going to make it, and she is now so successful in school. So we were able to, in our everyday lives, after school or we're shopping, a student will call out your name and they'll just say, hey, do you remember me? I was on your caseload back in 2002, 2003. And that is compensation as far as I'm concerned. It really, really brightens my day. I enjoy, and I think our advocates really enjoy what we do, and that keeps us motivated.
I had Mrs. Brock and Miss Karen Zandy on the show a couple of weeks ago, and because of the work that you do, I know that sometimes this can be quite disappointing. It can be disparaging at times. I know that there are times I was going to say pull our hair out, but none of us have hair.
Yes.
But I know that this can be really overwhelming. So
Yes,
I
yes.
asked the question,
Right.
what did they do to get beyond this? And the answer that she gave to me is basically the same thing that you're saying, is that you truly practice what you preach. The very things that you're trying to instill in young people are the very things that you do, which helps you get over obstacles. For instance, as I said, I question, how do you deal with the emotional aspect of having a student that fails?
Yes, yes.
How do you internalize it? How do you deal with that? And your answers are no different from what you would give to a student who is struggling with a problem that's internal for them. And I think that whatever training or whatever it is that you're doing over there, all of you have managed to put together a great team together. And I think that this is such a valuable asset that this community has. And I like to do everything in my power to continue to promote what it is that you're doing, because this is what I believe that is going to make a healthy community. This is how we can begin to start turning these graduation rates around, when we can actually point. The problem that many of these young people that I've noticed have is that they have nothing to point to that
Yes.
shows them what success looks like.
Yes.
And since there's nothing in their world where they can say, oh, okay, I can follow down that path. So they're so accustomed to seeing failure or not being successful. And so that is the model. But now somehow we need to be able to get them to see, hopefully through this show, them talking, some parent will see, maybe if I get in touch with either one of you, get my student enrolled into this program, we can begin to start seeing some differences here.
Indeed. Well said. This is a great time. We are proud of the 500 or so students that graduated this past school year. That has provided opportunities for new students to be enrolled. So the time is good.
I think that the example and the lives that you're living, and I think that one of the other things that I hear coming really loud and clear is this extended community idea, this concept of letting students know that if you may not have support here, there are some other places that you can look for support and gather that support. Because I noticed one of the things that sometimes students may not behave in the best manner that they can for themselves, but now they'll behave better if they know that there's someone out there that cares about them, and they'll be good simply because they want to make that one person proud. And those are the things that we need to be able to emphasize. So, yes.
Absolutely. And our challenge is for them to now do it when no one is looking. So that's where it starts. They start certainly, oftentimes responding to the youth advocate. The youth advocate can show up in the lunchroom and it's like, oh, there's my advocate. I need to, and we find that as being one of the stages of development, that because of the caring adult there, behavior is modified accordingly. But that's not where it ends for us. We want the young person to really embrace the fact that it is about their character. It is about doing it for themselves and understanding that we live in a world that judges us by the decisions that we make and how we treat one another. And so it shouldn't take the advocate's presence in order for you to begin to model good behavior. And so that's the ongoing dialogue that takes place in this thing that I refer to as an enrichment. I like to talk about what those enrichments look like. It really, we use a research-based program, a teen outreach program, a wonderful, wonderful program that really give the advocates the tools to talk about things like goal setting, sexuality, you name it, it's covered in this youth development curriculum. And so we're just able to sit down and to talk about various scenarios a young person may not have been confronted with at that time in life, but what would you do under peer pressure if this was the situation or if that was the circumstance? Why would that decision, what are the consequences for that choice as opposed to this choice? And so an advocate really understands that we have to do less preaching and more discussion so that the young person can arrive at the kinds of conclusions that we may already know that would lead to success. The important thing is that it must be instilled within, and that's our challenge and what excites us about this work.
What kind of social skills programs do you have that are embedded in your program? Because all you have to do is ride the bus, the city bus, and you're going to get there. You're going to discover that there's a whole lot of adults that need some social skills as well. What kind of social skills component are embedded inside what you're doing?
Well, you know, some of it is certainly formal. So a few years ago, as part of our summer academy, we're a year-round program, we did a whole summer camp just on etiquette. So how to dress professionally. We actually took young people down to one of the hotels, and I even get it wrong, but figuring out which fork to use, you know, I think you work outside in. But, you know, kind of doing those type of things in addition to the teen outreach program. I've had an occasion, and it's happened twice, so I'll say it's not just coincidence. You know, I've walked into schools looking like I am, and just walked down the hall, and I've seen young people using some pretty foul language. And I had a young lady one time just pause, look at me and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, mister." Later on, she came on down to the office. I find out that's one of our students. So just the mere presence and how you look. These young people, you know, sometimes realize that they're not doing something right, but through what we've given to them, they acknowledge it, just to say, you know, "Mister, I'm sorry." So that realized that it was disrespectful to me and also disrespectful to that young lady. So, you know, certainly one of the other things that, you know, must be said for this program is you have to ask yourself as a community, what are our choices for real? I say you either invest in these young people now or you will end up paying for it later. So the cost to have a young person enrolled in the program for work scholarship is about $3,000. You get a full-time youth advocate. It's year-round. That advocate is there 24 hours a day. We do the expeditionary learning things. You get life and social skills training, the connection to the world of work, support when you're on your job. So you spend $3,000 a year. If that young person were to drop out of high school and let's just say, unfortunately, create a crime and need to have the services of the criminal justice system, that costs the taxpayers of New York State about $90,000. You think about if young people can't go out and get jobs, the public assistance system kicks in, and those are additional dollars there. So I say you invest now or you end up paying later. If you take a look at both the perpetrators of violence and also the victims of violence, there's a high correlation between that. Over 90% of perps and vics have not completed a high school education. So that's putting them at more risk for need to know services or those other systems that you don't want to do. So if we can just keep the message out, continuing to have our community get behind that and really see, invest now or we end up all paying later.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with that said, this hour goes by so quickly. I'd like to thank both of you for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
This
Thank
has
you
been
very much,
so
Mr. Young.
inspiring, and I'm quite sure that the viewing audience is going to find this very, very valuable. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank
Thank you very much.
My name is James Young. I look forward to seeing you next week. Be blessed, and remember, it's a new day.